Hello, everyone, and thank you for your interest in hydrotherapy. Today, I will tell you a little bit more about Geron Hydrotherapy, the why, what, who, how, and the wow. So for those of you who don't already know me, as John mentioned, or actually, I don't know if he mentioned, but I worked professionally as a hydrotherapist for the last 20 years. I completed my hydrotherapy qualification in Holland and Israel, where hydrotherapy is a standalone profession. Over the years, I've been fortunate enough to travel the world and learn pretty much every aquatic and hydrotherapy technique that's out there, including all of these. I would go into the intricacies of each one, but we don't have enough time for that. However, we do need to understand where we came from to understand where we are now. And that puts us in a good position to see where we can potentially go. So a little bit of a history of hydrotherapy. I won't bore you too much, but hydrotherapy has ancient roots dating back to ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, where water was used for healing and health. Hot springs, in particular, held a special place in the history of hydrotherapy. Here we have the ruins of an ancient Greek hot spring called an Asclepion, strewn with columns that probably held up a structure over the waters. The ancient Greeks worshipped the god of healing Asclepios, and they built elaborate healing temples dedicated to him in natural springs. Patients would come to these sacred sites seeking relief from their ailments by bathing in or drinking the spring water. Hippocrates advocated the curative power of water, and the Romans built elaborate public baths for both hygiene and wellness. These baths were believed to alleviate a wide range of ailments, from joint pain to skin conditions. Civilizations across the globe believed in the healing powers of these naturally occurring geothermal springs and developed traditions like the onsen tradition in Japan, where people immersed themselves in baths, reaping the therapeutic and relaxation benefits of the minerals and the heat. During the 18th and 19th centuries, hydrotherapy was revived in Europe, particularly in Germany and Austria, where water cures involving cold water immersion, baths, and wraps were popularized, leading to the rise of health spas and sanatoriums. As medicine continued to advance in the 20th century, hydrotherapy underwent further refinement. New technologies and techniques such as whirlpool baths, hydromassage, underwater exercises were developed to enhance the therapeutic effects of water. Hydrotherapy also found its place in rehabilitation and physical therapy, with professionals using water-based exercises to aid in the recovery of injuries and surgeries. In the 1980s, hot springs became the setting for the creation of passive bodywork techniques, where people began to work on each other while floating in the warm water. Coming back to the list of techniques I showed you earlier, each one of them has powerful elements that have specific therapeutic effects. Some of them are active, such as aquatic remedial exercise, the sports and pediatric hydrotherapy, Badrugas, Burdenko, water Pilates, the I Chi, and the neural developmental therapy. Some of them are passive, such as the shiatsu, Traeger work, water dance, healing dance, the sajak, and the anatomy trains, or the myofascial release. And the reason that Geron hydrotherapy is so special, in my very, very biased opinion, is that it's the first technique in hydrotherapy that holistically incorporates both the active and the passive methods, and harnesses their respective therapeutic effects together with the age-old mechanical and thermal benefits of water to achieve accelerated and sustained outcomes. So why did I choose hydrotherapy? Because when I came across it many years in my personal therapeutic journey, It proved to be one of the most powerful therapies I'd ever come across. And I think Stacey can also speak to that because she has autoimmune disease that she didn't mention. And she also uses the hydrotherapy for that. So firstly, I absolutely loved it. And secondly, the results that it yielded were incredible. On a primal level, the water element is that root, the powerhouse behind all life, and facilitates the balance and well-being of the human body. The body recognizes this warm water environment as safe. We all spent 9 months in it. It calms the nervous system. We breathe out more deeply and we let go. Its gentleness allows us to let go. But behind the gentleness is immense power, the power to drive change, and it goes deep into the strata of our being. On a purely physical level, since time immemorial, it's not just us Homo sapiens that have used it. It gives us respite from the weight of our body. The swirls soothe our aches and pains. Movement is looser and easier, and we can really enjoy a freedom that we may not always enjoy on land. I'd like to quickly insert here that hydrotherapy is an umbrella term, which means the use of water for therapy. Today, when we use the term hydrotherapy and rehabilitation, we have to qualify it and specify what type of hydrotherapy we're referring to because it's such a broad umbrella term. We could be using an ice bath or a therapy session in an indoor heated pool. They're both hydrotherapy. Before I developed the Geron technique, I used all the modalities in my toolbox when I considered where and when I considered them appropriate. But I was also very fortunate in my professional path because I came across two pivotal people. Professor Phyllis Berger, an established and published acupuncturist, lecturer, and pain physiotherapist, and our very own renowned sports physician, Professor John Patricius. They gave me the opportunity to work with incredible professionals, therapists, and many, many patients. What ended up happening was that I used the hydrotherapy techniques out there, cherry-picked what really worked, and organically distilled them into a condensed and exceptionally efficient protocol that's now being investigated, as Stacey said, for its effectiveness. I'm still constantly learning and trying new things, excuse me, and I'm refining the technique all the time. So when we refer to Geron Hydrotherapy, we are referring to a private one-to-one therapy session in an indoor heated pool where a therapist applies specific protocols and uses tailored aquatic remedial exercises together with stretches and passive bodywork techniques that include myofascial release and deep tissue massage. It takes advantage of the mechanical and thermal properties of the warm water to strengthen, mobilize, align, and release the bodies in ways that are difficult to achieve on land. As we go through what it looks like, I'm going to weave in some of the properties that Stacey spoke about earlier, and also some aspects of the hydrotherapy techniques that feature in the tapestry of the Geron approach, and I'll give you a summary at the end. So we start with remedial exercise. First, we fully immerse the affected area in thermoneutral water of around 34 degrees centigrade. It's warm enough to ensure the body's core temperature stays within the normal range, especially for patients who can't generate heat through exercise. And it's cool enough to dissipate any heat generated from exercise. The body can stay in this temperature for extended periods of time and won't get too hot or too cold. Heat transfer begins immediately when the body is immersed in warm water. And because the heat capacity of the human body is less than that of water, the body takes on the water's temperature pretty fast. Within 10 seconds, tissues are heated and primed for exercise and stretching. You don't need a warm-up, and this saves a lot of time in the active part of a therapy session. The heat, together with the hydrostatic pressure, work to reduce blood pressure and heart rates, increasing the relaxation response and therefore affecting guarding. So the patient is more receptive to moving and being worked on. The heat and pressure also affect the nociceptors, as Stacey mentioned, and lower pain sensitivity. So movement is easier and we can work more comfortably to the limits of strength and range. So when we work, we actually achieve more. Then add the buoyancy to the mix. So not only is the impact of exercise alleviated, but it allows for larger movements with correct form. The therapist then ensures that the affected area is properly aligned while establishing the patient's pain-free zone, a range where they experience very little discomfort. The aim is to use this zone to enhance strength and movement safely without causing further pain and reduce post-session inflammation so that the patient actually wants to come back. Then we add the stabilization of the therapist. And as the patient begins to work, we add speed and possibly exercise aids like fins or floats to the mix. If they double the speed, they quadruple the resistance, and this figure compounds exponentially. This comes from the Budenko technique that was developed for injured athletes. It uses the viscosity and resistance of the water to incrementally build up strength that meets the patient precisely where they need to be met on the day. It challenges and resists just enough, balancing out rigid with flexible, weak muscle groups with contracted ones, agonist with antagonist, enough but not too much, disengaging prolonged contractions as the movements are repeated. Because we are activating the right muscles, retraining muscle groups to work correctly, and therefore we gain more range. The speed of movement is increased as strength and pain-free range increases with time. Remember that without gravity and in a viscose medium, the patient is challenged in more numerous and functional planes. So an exercise in a single plane, so let's take, for example, a bicep curl tricep extension, is resisted in both directions. And an exercise in several planes, for example, a full arm rotation, is resisted in all the planes of movement. So the exercise is extremely efficient in what it achieves in the amount of time that it takes to do it. Sometimes movement is assisted because the patterns are such that the tissues need a reminder on how to work correctly. But for the most part, movement is resisted. Bilateral movement is also very important to achieving the balance that we want between left and right sides. They work holistically to restore strength and natural alignment. Exercises that involve alternating movement also achieve symmetry of affected and unaffected sides. Now we've created some turbulence, which is also a very useful tool. The water currents test the mobility and stability of the patient. No joint can move in isolation, and this reveals important information to the therapist, identifying areas that need to be addressed. On top of that, we add dynamic or active palpation and release. This comes from techniques such as Scottson, Badrigas, and Traeger work, where the therapist monitors the tissue by palpation as the patient performs a specific movement and facilitates the release of contracted soft tissue while it is in motion. Because of the alternating balance between working and resting tissue, it responds quickly to palpation and release and becomes more elastic as the exercise progresses. At the end of the active part, the therapist demonstrates and guides passive stretching techniques derived from shiatsu, ai chi, and anatomy trains or myofascial release. The patient is always in control of the stretch, initially in the pain-free range, and gradually we challenge the limits of that pain-free range. Having the patient in control of the stretch is important because guarding is less and relaxation is deeper. Here we prompt deep breathing, specifically a deep exhale for a deeper stretch. The buoyancy allows for easy correction of alignment. The warmth and relaxation response allows for greater elasticity to enhance the stretch. After intensive exercise comes intensive rest. We float the patient with special floats under the head and under the legs that ensure that no muscle groups at all are engaged. So here buoyancy is at 100%. And the body is neutralized in the correct alignment. The Geron Hydrotherapy pillow is specially designed to provide neutral alignment. Both pillows and floats are adjustable for different sizes, buoyancies, and ages. We just keep the face above the water at all times. This part of the session is usually the patient's favorite part. It's not often that we get to completely disengage our bodies in our busy world, and that relaxation response is exactly what we're looking for to release stiff tissue and achieve results. Some patients describe this as a womb-like experience. Others say it's the best thing since outer space. Psychosomatically, it's about letting go. When we let go, we are carried. We submit to the gentleness and to the power of the water. Nothing else is required of us. We inhabit the present and we start becoming like water. Obviously, buoyancy comes in here and is very important because it allows us therapists complete three-dimensional access to the body to apply specialized passive aquatic bodywork techniques derived from Sajak, anatomy trains or myofascial release, Traeger work, water shiatsu, healing dance, and water dance. It's like being able to swing around an astronaut in space and work from any angle you need to with relatively little effort, and apply massage and mobilizations almost impossible on land. It's also great for the therapist because there is very little strain on the therapist's body. The Geron bodywork that follows can be broken down into the following components: massage and gentle myofascial release, passive movements through the available pain-free range, gentle traction, passive stretching where the affected area is worked and stretched last. This is because throughout the session, we build up to this and culminate in very gently testing range and elasticity. Because floating in warm water affects our consciousness and sense of boundary, our body feels more and more boundless. As a result, we can achieve deeper stretches. Breathing deeply in and out during stretches is very important. On a deep out breath, muscle holding and contraction is much less, and the stretch is more effective. I try to balance the active and the passive work. So we usually do half an hour of remedial exercise and then half an hour of body work, but that does vary depending on the patient. Exercises are always tailored to the specific needs and limits of the patient on the day. There are exceptions, but for most patients, this combination yields the best results. In cases where the patient has been referred and can't swim or has a water phobia, we ensure that they receive the support that they need to feel safe. This usually means that they hold onto a bar during exercise and body work, but this doesn't necessarily affect the quality of the session. Going with the flow is part of this type of work. There is a distinct structure in the protocols that we apply, but within it, there is lots of room for creativity and improvisation. Feedback from patients during sessions is actively sought and integrated into the treatment plan, allowing for ongoing adjustments that optimize the outcomes. So, who is Geron Hydrotherapy for? It focuses on the rehabilitation of musculoskeletal conditions and pathologies that present symptoms of pain and stiffness to alleviate both acute and chronic conditions and facilitating recovery and maintenance. We all come in different sizes, shapes, and physical conditions. Water equalizes them all. It is therefore suitable for almost anyone in any age group. It's an accessible, low-threshold activity, and you don't have to be able to swim. It's very good in addressing conditions that would benefit from decompression and where movement or exercise is difficult or damaging on land. So spine, shoulder, and hip girdle, knee and ankle conditions, arthroplasties, and injuries all respond well to it. We've seen particular success with shoulder patients suffering from adhesive capsulitis, as Stacey is studying in her research, and also with patients that have an imbalance between left and right sides, so stroke patients and post-surgery patients. Then we have our chronic conditions and pain syndromes, the fibromyalgias, rheumatoid arthritis, the osteoarthritis, the CRIPS, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, Sjogren's, and other progressive genetic and degenerative conditions. It's also used for palliative care and pediatric joint disorders and injuries. And 2 of my patients insisted that I specify that it's helped their conditions, which are scoliosis and thoracic outlet syndrome. There are some contraindications. So if you have the following, you shouldn't get into the pool to protect yourself and others. And then, in summary, I love AI. I just plug in the reams of text and it gives me a nice short paragraph. Geron Hydrotherapy is a private one-on-one therapy session in a heated pool where a therapist uses aquatic exercise, stretches, and passive bodywork techniques. The properties of warm water help relax the body, reduce pain, and enable larger, more efficient movements that are difficult to achieve on land. The therapy incorporates stabilization, resistance training, and bilateral movements to restore balance and strength, while therapeutic water techniques address soft tissue release and alignment. Passive stretches, deep relaxation, and specialized bodywork culminate in a comprehensive, customized approach to safely strengthen, mobilize, and release tight tissues, ensuring long-term results without setbacks. It lasts approximately 1 hour and follows a defined set of protocols that are divided into active and passive phases, integrating various hydrotherapeutic methods. The active phase involves remedial exercise, where we completely immerse the body, except for the head, stabilize the affected area, ensuring that it's properly aligned while establishing the patient's pain-free range, move joints through their existing pain-free range, ensuring correct movement, and utilizing speed and turbulence to challenge limits and increase range. Initially, movements are unresisted and gradually progress to resisted as pain and mobility improve. Emphasis is placed on maintaining alignment and appropriate speed. Then we apply active or dynamic palpation and release of the soft tissue while the joint is in motion. And then we stretch the area while stabilizing in the correct alignment. Then we move to the passive phase, where we neutralize the body in a supine floating position, keeping the body comfortable and relaxed while ensuring correct alignment. We apply specialized massage and myofascial release, aquatic bodywork techniques. We passively mobilize through the available range, applying gentle traction where indicated, loosening tight tissue, and alleviating pressure on joints. And finally, we stretch passively in the bodywork to integrate the new range and sustain elasticity. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the Geron Institute. It's the vehicle that will take the Geron technique into the future, and it's proudly based in South Africa. More and more people are becoming interested in it, and the Institute will firstly promote and protect the standards of the work. Secondly, it will support research that investigates its effectiveness. And thirdly, it will refine and offer training to roll out the work. And here I'd like to recognize 2 very special ladies, Dagmar Delmarco and Stacey Lewis. These 2 ladies have worked with me over the last 2 years to develop the curriculum for the work. They are simply incredible therapists and instructors, each bringing a wealth of expertise that will take it to the next level. Stacey's research is the first of its kind, like she said, in South Africa, and when she finishes her master's degree this year, She will be the only person in South Africa with a postgraduate degree in aquatic therapy. However, there's a lot of research that needs to take place still. So regarding the trainings, if it were up to me, I'd be very happy just seeing patients in the pool. But first, John insisted that I have a duty to posterity to impart the knowledge. And then these two ladies enabled the process by making themselves available for the journey. And I'm so very grateful to all of you. In the words of Confucius, if you think in terms of a year, plant a seed. If in terms of 10 years, plant trees. If in terms of 100 years, teach people. Imparting knowledge is the hallmark of every civilization, great civilization. So let's do it. One limitation is the small number, sorry, I went too fast. It's the one limitation that we have is the small number of facilities that we have for the work. Thanks to John, Wits is busy developing an incredible new educational facility that will also house hydrotherapy training and therapy pools. And Stacey, as she mentioned, just built a beautiful new facility in Glen Hazel. So the next generation of hydrotherapists will be luckier than we are. So if the work has resonated with you today and you would like to join in the journey, please reach out and get in touch. These are my contact details. Feel free to contact me or Stacey directly for demonstrations or research or just to connect and collaborate. You'll find a lot more information on the hydrotherapy.co, the website, and the Facebook page, Hydrotherapy SA. And if you simply search for Geron Hydrotherapy on Google or YouTube, you'll find my lectures that go into a bit more detail on the principles behind the work. And there are several more videos demonstrating the work. And finally, these are a few references that I've used. Oopsie. And yeah, I was going to present a case study, but I was worried we were going to run out of time. So we'll just move on to questions.